Hello all, welcome to Narayana IAS Academy and welcome to yet another live session. As all of you know, this is Sureka Bhaskar here to present the daily news analysis, and we have picked up today around 4 articles from The Hindu and the Indian Express that we'll be discussing in exclusive detail that actually happens to be very important as well as relevant for the UPSC CSE examination. And today's dose of motivation, as you can actually see behind me, it says it's better to lose with integrity than to win through deceit. So what does this say? Even though you actually fail, you need to be very ethical in your standards and the practices that you adopt. And that kind of failure, even if you lose with respect to that of integrity, that will actually keep you higher in the ethical pedestal of life rather than to actually win by unlawful, or what you say, unethical means like disloyalty, disregard, etc. or dishonesty. So with this having said, let us actually move on to look at the number of topics that we've actually picked up. There are 4, and before that, here are the the products as well as the courses that we as Narayana IAS Academy actually offer to you. So we have our 1-year prelims cum mains integrated course for the year 2026 and 2-year integrated course for the 2027 examination. And also we actually provide you capsules of programs which are actually designed or curated by our experts in the R&D team that will help you to ace the examination and all the 3 stages, that is the prelims, the mains as well as your interview stage. Okay, and also we actually have 800 plus hours of general studies as well as CSAT online classes and 200 hours of current affairs that are actually curated so that it is actually dynamic, that will help you to connect your static syllabus with that of your dynamic and answer any kind of question asked from different dimensions. And also we provide you with a strategic micro schedule where a detailed schedule or a study plan, which is actually a daily routine, is actually provided to you by our experts that help you easily maneuver or sail through this vast ocean of the UPSC CSE syllabus. And also we have our expert faculties who will be guiding you throughout the process. And finally, we have regular testing as well as the feedback mechanism. Now moving forward, if you see, we provide a number of study materials that have been properly researched and curated so that it actually becomes a one-stop solution for your preparation. That actually includes a Narayana IAS study kit where we provide 12 Navigator NCERT books as well as 21 GS Navigator books, and this actually caters to both the prelims as well as the mains examination. And also we have categorized the PYQs thematically. Okay, moving forward, we have digital resources where we will be providing 250 plus model answers that have been curated by the people who have actually appeared for the interview stage or the interview level of this particular examination. And finally, as all of you know, we have our monthly Navigator Current Affairs magazine, which has successfully come out. That is, we have actually completed 12 editions of this particular product, which will be a one-stop solution for your current affairs, where we actually cover not only the current affairs part, but also we give you the historical background of each and every topic and help you to connect the static with that of the dynamic or the current affairs topics. Okay, so now, having said all that, let's actually come back to our discussion. So the topics that we've actually picked up today are from the Hindu predominantly. So the first topic has been picked up from page number 8 of the Hindu, 25% of India's total area under green cover. So this is actually from yesterday's Hindu. Okay, so since it is very important, we've actually picked this particular article up for the mains discussion, as it is going to discuss about the state of forest in India, which states have actually performed better, which states have a decreasing mangrove cover, the bamboo cover, which are the areas that are characterized or prone to the forest fires, etc. So that we'll be discussing. So this is actually a biennial report, and last edition was in 2021 and now we have in 2023, that is State of India's Forest Report. Okay, so we'll be covering this particular article in detail. Moving forward, the next article has been picked up from page number 9 of the Hindu, the challenges of posthumous reproduction. So what do you mean by posthumous? That is, even after a person actually has deceased or demised or dead, what happens, how or whether there are legal provisions in India which actually allows us to use their frozen sperm or the eggs in order to conceive the pregnancy. So this is what we'll be actually seeing. So here we'll be reading about a particular technology called as the assisted reproductive technology and what are the different types of it, and also we'll be discussing about the assisted reproductive technology regulation of 2021. Along with that, we'll also see the other legal provisions that actually guides this. Moving forward, the third article has been picked up from page number 8 of the Hindu, that is pointing the beacon at India's undersea warfare power. So here we'll be looking at how well or how has India's how India has actually progressed significantly with respect to that of the undersea warfare, and what are the advancements that India has actually done with respect to that of the same, and various other initiatives in order to maintain its strategic position or a strategic maritime position or a power in the Indo-Pacific region. So this is what we'll be discussing for the prelims perspective. And final article for the day has been picked up from the text and context page. This actually talks about the new interception rules. That is, the Union government has actually notified the telecommunications rule of rules of 2024, and this is actually going to replace the telegraph rules of 1951. So we'll be looking at what are these, and we'll be moving forward with the discussions, as well as finally we'll be solving the MCQs as well as the mains practice question. So now, having discussed or seen the topics that we'll be discussing, let's quickly move on to discuss the first topic for today. That is 25% of India's total area under green cover. So this particular article actually discusses about the India State of Forest Report 2023, where we will be going through the comprehensive analysis of different dimensions actually discussed over there, where we will actually understand about what do you mean by forest cover, and then what do you mean by tree cover, and all those definitions we'll be discussing over here. And also we'll be looking at the state of forest conservation in India. So this particular topic becomes very important for both the prelims and mains under environment, and under GS paper 3, environmental pollution and degradation, finally conservation. Okay. So now let's move forward. So if you see in one of the previous years, that is specifically in 2020, there was actually a question on examine the status of the forest resources in India and its resultant impact on climate change. So this was a 10 marker. So any kind of question with respect to that of the forest, the initiative, the status of decrease or increase, etc., becomes very important, or at least you need to quote your data from these kind of relevant sources, specifically these reports that have been released by the government. Now, moving forward, let us see why this particular topic has been in news. So recently, the Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change had actually released the India State of Forest Report 2023 at the Forest Research Institute in Dehradun. So now let us quickly jump into what the report is all about. Okay. So this particular report is a biennial report. Okay. So it is a biennial report, and this is what do you mean by biennial? This is actually released once in 2 years. Okay, so it is released once in 2 years, and it is released by the Forest Survey of India, and the previous edition was in 2021. So now let us actually see further. So according to the forest cover report, so according to the forest cover report, all the land, what do you mean by this particular term of forest cover? That is what we'll actually discuss over here. So what do you mean by this particular forest cover? This actually includes all the lands that is more than or equal to 1 hectare in area. So the forest cover is nothing but any area which is actually more than or equal to 1 hectare in area, and also which has a tree canopy of more than or equal to 10%. Okay, and 10% of this area actually has to have tree canopy irrespective of the ownership and the legal status. Okay, so this is what is the definition of forest cover as given by this particular report. And also it includes the orchards, and it also includes the bamboo cover and palm. So this is the first one. We've actually understood about the forest cover. The next one is the recorded forest area. So what do you mean by recorded forest area? This is also inclusive of all the geographical areas that are recorded as forest in the government records. Okay. So these are the recorded forest areas, and this actually consists of the reserved forest, this consists of the protected forest, etc. under the Indian Forest Act of 1927. So now we are just looking at the basics, okay. So this particular report is important because this actually gives you a lot of data and the statistics on what has been the status of increase or decline in the mangrove cover, the bamboo cover. What are the areas that are actually prone to the forest fires? Okay, what is the percentage of it? Which states actually are increasingly prone to this particular forest fire, and how all these actually impact the climate change? All these dimensions are very, very important. That's why we've taken up this particular report. Okay. So this particular report gave the definition of what is this forest cover. Next one, it talks about the recorded forest area, which actually includes your reserve forest, your protected forest, etc. And also it actually has the unclassed forest, the village forest, and the areas that are designated or as the forest in the revenue records or any kind of state act or a local law. So these are the recorded forest area. Now moving forward, if you actually see the classification of forest cover that is actually mentioned here, this is the class of it. That is, it can be either very dense forest. When it is called a very dense forest, when the canopy density is more than or equal to 70%. What do you mean by canopy? So this is your canopy cover. When this is actually more than or equal to 70% of the particular area, then this particular area is classified as very dense forest, and moderately dense when it is actually 40%, that is greater than or equal to, on the canopy density is between 40% to 70%. And it is called as the open forest when it is between 10% to 40%, that is the canopy cover. And finally it is called the scrub when the canopy density is actually more than 10%, generally with shrubs interspersed in between the trees. That is, these are trees, right? So you actually have shrubs interspersed here. So that is called as a scrub land. And finally the non-forest, that is the lands that do not fall into any of the above classes. And this particularly includes areas like croplands where the settlements are there. All these areas, it can also include the water bodies, the grasslands, then snow clad areas, deserts, etc. So these are the classification of the forest cover. Now moving forward, let us see, it is actually speaking about tree cover. What do you mean by tree cover? So far we've actually seen what is forest cover, and we have actually seen the reserved forest area or recorded forest area, right? Now we are actually looking into the tree cover. What do you mean by tree cover? These are the areas covered by trees outside the recorded forest areas. These recorded forest areas we saw, right? Whichever are recorded by the government records. So anything outside it is called as the tree cover area. This also includes small patches of trees which are less than 1 hectare in size. It also includes individual trees. It can be block plantations, it can be linear plantations, and it can be scattered trees. Okay, so these are all the part of the tree cover. So now if you actually see, are there any kind of legal provisions for protection of the forest cover or tree cover in India? Yes, we have the National Forest Policy of 1988. Let us actually see what it is. Yeah. So now let us actually see, what does this National Forest Policy of 1988 mandate. So according to the National Forest Policy, at least 1/3 of the total area of India must actually have forest and tree cover. This is what it is. That is, at least 1/3 of the total land area in India should be under the forest or the tree cover in order to ensure the ecological sustainability or the stability. Okay. And in case if the area is hilly or mountainous regions, then what happens? It has to be characterized by at least 2/3 of the area must actually be covered by the forest in order to prevent soil erosion and any kind of further degradation. So this is what the National Forest Policy of 1988 actually said. Now, how do you actually link it with that of Kyoto Protocol? That also becomes very, very important, okay? As far as as long as you know your national conventions is very good, but how you link it with that of your international guidelines or conventions, that becomes even more important. So, if you see, according to the Kyoto Protocol, the definition of, we saw the definition of forest cover and all, right? So, according to Kyoto Protocol, the definition of the forest can vary from one country to another depending upon what is the capacity of the country, what are all the capabilities of the country in order to maintain the forest cover. Okay, so this is what it is. So it has actually given few of the criteria. First one, the crown cover percentage. So Kyoto Protocol actually says that the minimum tree cover, that is the minimum tree crown cover, that is canopy, it actually falling within the range of, it has to be within the range of 10 to 30%. However, India has actually adopted 10% threshold. If you see the minimum area of stand, we actually saw what is the meaning, right? So, forested areas should have a minimum area between 0.05 to 1 hectare, and India actually had adopted 1 hectare as minimum. And moving forward, the minimum height of trees. So, what does the Kyoto Protocol actually say? The trees in these areas should have the potential to reach a minimum height of at least 2 to 5 meters at maturity in their natural habitat. So this is what the definition of forest has been given by the Kyoto Protocol. Now moving forward, let us see what have been the key findings of this report. So these are merely numbers, okay? You just need to have a note of the range, whether there has been a decrease compared to the previous year or whether there has been an increase compared to the previous year. So first one, forest and tree cover. So forest and tree cover in India actually constitute around 25.17%, okay, of the country's geographical area. Of the total, country's geographical area, what happens? 25.17% is both the forest as well as the tree cover. That is approximately 8,27,356. This is not important, but this is important. So out of this 25%, 21.76 is the forest cover and 3.41 is actually your tree cover. And if you see, when you compare the data of 2023 to 2021, there has been an increase of around 1,445 kilometers square in forest and tree cover. So the first parameter, forest and tree cover, there has been an increase compared to that of the previous report. So now let us see the trends of the states and the union territories. So if you see, the states or the UTs that have the highest forest and tree cover in terms of their area is Madhya Pradesh, actually ranks number 1, followed by Arunachal Pradesh and Maharashtra. So this is also to an extent very, very important, okay? So if you see here, this is the forest and the tree cover of India. This is the report that actually talks about it. So if you see, the total geographical area is actually 32.87 lakh square kilometer. And out of this, what happens? The forest cover is 7.15 lakh, that is nothing but 21.7%. Okay. And if you see, the tree cover is 3.41. So this together actually comprises around 25.17%. Then you have the scrub land that constitutes 1.33 and the non-forest land is 73.5%. Okay, so this is actually what the report says. So first we actually saw the forest cover. Now we will see with respect to that of how the states have been performing, right? First we actually saw Madhya Pradesh was actually the highest in terms of the forest cover. Here maximum increase in the forest and the tree cover in terms of area that has been that was achieved by Chhattisgarh, followed by UP as well as Odisha. Maximum decrease is actually seen in Madhya Pradesh and Karnataka, Ladakh and all. This is maximum decrease in the forest and tree cover with respect to the area. Next one, highest forest cover with respect to area. That also includes Madhya Pradesh, Arunachal and Chhattisgarh. And highest forest cover, this is nothing but percentage of geographical area. See, what do you mean by area and geographical area? For example, if 100 square kilometer is the total area of India, out of that, how much this actually possesses, how much Madhya Pradesh actually has is defined as area. Here, what is called as geographical area. Out of the total area, Madhya Pradesh actually has what is the percentage of forest cover? That is called as a percentage of geographical area. So, the highest forest cover as a percentage of geographical area, that is Lakshadweep, for example, is 100 square kilometers. So, out of this, what happens? 91.33 is forest cover. So, the highest is Lakshadweep. 91.33 of its land is covered by forest. Okay. So, that is Lakshadweep, followed by Mizoram and followed by Andaman and Nicobar Highlands. Okay. So, this is actually done. Now, if you see the maximum increase in the forest cover, that has actually been in Mizoram, followed by Odisha as well as Gujarat. Next one, highest tree cover, again in terms of area, Maharashtra, followed by Rajasthan and UP. And finally, highest tree cover in percentage of its own geographical area is Chandigarh, Delhi as well as Kerala. So, these are few of the statistics that we actually have to know in terms of which states and the UTs have been performing comparatively well in terms of the tree as well as the forest cover. Now, we will see the region-wise highlights. So, what is the amount of decrease or increase in the Western Ghats? What happened to the hill districts? What is the status of the northeastern region, etc. So, first one, let's see the Western Ghats area. The report actually states that 73% of this particular Western Ghats area, that is comprises of, that is, it is covered by forest. So, 73% of the geographical area of Western Ghats has forest cover, and last decade it has actually undergone a loss. So, again there is a decrease in the forest cover of up to 58.22 square kilometers, followed by the hill districts. Okay. So, here 40% of the geographical area of hill districts are under forest cover, and there has been surprisingly increase in the forest cover in the hill districts by 234.14 kilometers square. Next one is the northeastern region. So, in the entire northeastern region, 67% of the region actually has the forest and the tree cover. However, there has been a decrease in the forest cover by around 327 square kilometers. Okay. So, the Western Ghats area, there has been a decline in the forest cover, and also in the northeastern region, there has been a decline in terms of forest cover due to degradation and other activities, whereas the hill districts actually have performed comparatively better. So, this is what we infer from this article. Next one, mangroves. Okay. So, if you actually see this particular map over here, or the pie chart over here, you can see West Bengal actually has the highest share of mangroves, that is 42.45%. Okay. And this is actually followed by Andaman and Nicobar Islands, 12%, and then you actually have Gujarat, that is 23.32. Sorry, this is actually the second one. Okay. The first is West Bengal, next is actually the Gujarat. This is mangrove cover 2023, how they have actually performed. Okay. And you have Tamil Nadu 0.84, Odisha, Maharashtra, Kerala, etc. and how they have actually been performed. So, these are the pie charts and data that are actually taken from the original report itself. Okay. So, the mangrove cover in India actually constitutes around 0.15% of the entire geographical area, and they are classified as a very dense mangroves. Okay. That is, these very dense mangroves, they constitute 29.33%. That is, of this 0.15, 29.33 are very dense mangroves, then moderately dense are 30.07, and open mangroves are around 40.60%. However, if you compare with that of the previous years in the previous reports, what happens? There have been an overall decrease of around 7.43 kilometers square. However, there are increases that are actually been noticed in certain states like Andhra Pradesh as well as Maharashtra. Okay. So, this is the coverage of mangroves. Next one, forest fire. This report actually says that there have been, highest fire incidences in cases of Uttarakhand, Uttarakhand wildfires, right? And then Odisha and in the state of Chhattisgarh. And also it says that around 2.5% of the entire area is actually prone to severe, forest fires. So, let us actually see. So, there have been almost 2 lakh 3,544 fire hotspots that have been detected. However, there has been a decline when compared to that of 2021, and the highest cases were in Uttarakhand, Odisha and Chhattisgarh, and 36% of the country's forest cover, according to the report, is prone to frequent forest fires, of which 2.81 has extreme proximity, or it is prone to, or it has vulnerability to fires, and 7.85 percentage of forest cover very highly fire prone. So this is with respect to that of the forest fires. Next one, with respect to that of bamboo resources. So there has been a significant increase in terms of the bamboo resources across different states, across different states of India. That is around 1,54,670 kilometer square. You just have to know roughly whether there has been an increase or decrease. Okay, that's what will be asked in the exam, and not these numbers. So there has been an increase. Okay, so increase of around 5227 kilometer square since 2021, and the largest bamboo bearing states become Madhya Pradesh. Sometimes it can be asked that the largest bamboo bearing states in India include Arunachal Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, etc. So you need to know that Madhya Pradesh and Arunachal Pradesh are over there. And also Arunachal Pradesh has recorded a significant increase in the bamboo resources. Okay. And but however, if you see states like Karnataka, they have actually decreased. The bamboo resources have decreased in that particular state. Next one is agroforestry. So what do you mean by agroforestry? Agroforestry is nothing but it is a kind of land management system where there is integration of cultivation of trees along with crops, you have pastures, etc. Okay, so you will have trees, then you have crops also, then you have some pastures and again trees. So this integration is actually called agroforestry. So if you see, the tree green cover under agroforestry has also been increased when compared to the 2013 levels by 20.02%. So this is what is the data regarding agroforestry. Next is carbon stock. What do you mean by carbon stock? Carbon stock, as the name suggests, it can also be known as the carbon pool. This is the capacity of a particular system in order to absorb or sequester the carbon, okay, or it can store the carbon. So if you see how much capacity does Indian forest have in order to store or absorb carbon is 7,285.5 million tons actually has been recorded as the carbon stock. This is an increase of around 81.5 million tons. Next one, if you see the soil organic carbon pool, that actually has the largest share of 55%. And finally, if you see the highest carbon stock, that is actually accounted by Arunachal Pradesh, followed by Madhya Pradesh. These two states have actually been performing very, very high. So overall, over the past decade, what has been the range or the kind of decrease or increase in this forest cover, tree cover, mangrove cover, bamboo cover, that we will quickly go through. This is very, very important for the examination. Okay. So decadal trends from the year 2013 to 2023. First one, forest cover. This has increased. Okay. So first one is increased. Next one, if you see tree cover, this has also increased. Then the mangrove cover, yes, this has also increased. Agroforestry cover, this has also increased. And finally, the growing stock, this has also increased. So all these parameters have actually increased. So these are the decadal trends. Okay. So here we've actually in detail discussed or analyzed the entire state of India's forest report 2023. You need to know about the the report, how it actually becomes important for the examination, what are the terms that you need to know and the definition that you need to understand, so that you can make notes and jot it down for replicating in your mains answers. Okay. Now let's quickly move to the second article, the challenges of posthumous reproduction. So I'll actually tell you, that here we'll be discussing about the assisted reproductive technology, okay, and also we'll be discussing about the ART regulation of 2021 and the Surrogacy Act of 2022, and also here we'll be understanding different terms like what do you mean by ART, that is the assisted reproductive technology, and what do you mean by surrogacy, and what does the regulation say, and what are the types of surrogacy, also what are the different types of ART. All this becomes very, very important in the applications of science part, okay. So it's important for from the technology perspective. So here this topic becomes important under prelims, that is current events of national and international importance, and also mains under GS paper 3, technology, science and technology and its application and effects in everyday life, okay. So now let us quickly understand a similar question that has been asked in the 2020 examination with respect to that of the pro-nuclear transfer. So you need to be updated with every technology that actually is appearing in the news, or new kind of inventions, and also what are the kind of inventions which actually receive the Nobel Prize, etc., like the mRNA, the microRNA, and all these topics become very important for your examination, okay. So in that light, we will be seeing a recent news, okay. So what happened, person A actually was unwell. So he was receiving chemotherapy for one of the ailments he was actually facing, okay. So what happened, while receiving this treatment, being very uncertain about his survival, he chooses to he chooses to freeze or keep his gametes, okay, in the frozen form. So what do you mean by gametes here? Gametes are nothing but these are the reproductive material, okay. So the female gamete is the egg, okay, which is also called as the oocyte, and the male gamete is called as the sperm or the semen. So what do is that they actually freeze this and they keep, so that they can actually use it at a later stage for what to say, in order to enhance or increase the chances of conceiving or becoming pregnant, okay. So this is what is this. So this person actually chooses to freeze his gamete, that is the sperm or the semen, so that he can actually, it can be used for reproduction in the future by someone else, okay, also. And what happens, unfortunately, the person receiving chemotherapy had actually died. So when the parents actually went to the hospital and asked them to release his gamete, what happened, the hospital actually denies, saying that they need to actually get an order from the concerned High Court. So now what happened, in the recent ruling, the Delhi High Court has actually granted the parental rights to access the deceased son's genetic material for posthumous assisted reproduction. Now what we'll understand is, what is this posthumous assisted reproduction? So let us quickly see what it is. So according to the assisted reproductive technology regulation, see, whatever concept it is, it has a regulation that protects us, right? Protects it. So here, according to the ART regulation of 2021, that actually deals with this entire concept of assisted reproductive technology, this actually defines this particular ART as all the techniques, all the techniques that actually seeks to obtain a pregnancy. Whatever techniques you use in order to obtain, that is, the end result should be pregnancy. For that, all the techniques that you actually use, handling the gametes, that is, be it the sperm, that is the male gamete, or the female gamete, that is the oocyte or the egg, and when you alter it, or when there is actually any kind of manipulation or changes that is actually made to these gametes outside the human body, and after which the embryo, what do you mean by embryo? That is nothing but the sperm as well as the egg, they actually fertilize and form the embryo, or it is also called as a zygote. This fertilization actually happens happens outside the body. In that case, it is called as in vitro fertilization, okay? And then that is actually inserted into the reproductive system of the woman in order to conceive or become pregnant. So that is what is actually called as the assisted reproductive technology. Do you understand now? So, all techniques that seek to obtain a pregnancy, handling the sperm or the oocyte, that is the eggs, outside the human body and transferring the embryo into the reproductive system of a woman is called as assisted reproductive technology. And this is for all those who actually face challenges in natural conception. That is, they actually find it very difficult, or their womb is actually not conducive enough to hold the baby or to conceive or to fertilize the a zygote. That's what it is, okay? And in India, if you see, this particular ART, that is assisted reproductive technology services, are provided through either the ART clinics, which give the ART related treatments and the procedures, and also we have the ART banks that actually supply as well as store these particular gametes, okay? Now moving forward, let us actually see what are the types. First one, these are very easy to understand. First one is intrauterine insemination. So what do you mean by this? It is actually a fertility treatment, okay? So in this, what happens? There is a catheter. Catheter is nothing but a tube that is actually used in order to place the active mobile sperms. So mobile sperms are actually injected into this tube, and that actually places that into the womb. This is called as intrauterine insemination. Followed by that, you have the in vitro fertilization, where I told you the egg cells, that is the oocyte as well as the sperm, they undergo fertilization in the laboratory conditions, and finally the embryo or the zygote after fertilization is actually kept in the womb of a woman in order to begin this particular process of pregnancy. The next one is intracytoplasmic sperm injection. This is also a kind of in vitro fertilization in which a single sperm is injected into the egg using a fine needle. There is a catheter, here it is a needle. Next one is gamete intrafallopian transfer. Here nothing but the eggs and the sperm are actually placed onto the fallopian tubes of the female for the process of natural fertilization. And finally, you have the zygote transfer intrafallopian transfer. This is also a lab fertilized zygote placed into the fallopian tube. So these are all the methods which are actually used in the assisted reproductive technology. So why we need to know that? They can sometimes give you that intracytoplasmic sperm injection is a part of which of the following: genetic modification, genetic engineering, assisted reproductive technology, etc. So in that case, you need to know all these methods, okay? Because genetic modification, you had a number of questions with respect to the techniques that are involved. So here we have the ART regulation that actually takes care of the assisted reproductive technology in India. Let's see what are the rules or the provisions it actually gives, okay, for compliance of these banks, the clinics, the people, the commissioning people, that is people who are actually wanting to conceive, as well as the donors. Let's see what it has, okay. First, regulation of the clinics and the banks. So this particular act says that any clinic or the bank which wants to do this particular process, they have to be mandatorily registered under the Indian Council of Medical Research National Registry, which acts as a central database for all the registered ART entities. Next one, conditions for the gamete donation and supply. So the ART gametes can be collected and stored by the registered ART banks. And if you see the semen donors, that is, the male actually have to be within the age group of 21 to 55. And if you see in case of women, they actually have to be within 23 to 35. Okay, so this is actually supposed to be the age where females are considered to be highly fertile. Next one, oocyte donors, that is the egg donors. Females, they have to be married with at least one child living, okay, and the child has to be at least 3 years. Next one, a woman can donate oocytes only once, very very important, and a donor's gametes cannot be supplied to more than one couple. So if particularly if there is a particular person A and they actually have given number of oocytes or the eggs, etc., what happens, it actually has to be given only to one couple. It should be provided only to one couple. Okay. Now moving forward, let us actually see conditions for offering this ART services. So this actually requires a written informed consent from both the party. Who are the party? The one is the commissioning couple. Commissioning couple is the couple who actually want to be pregnant, and the next one is the donor. Okay, both the parties have to give a written consent, and insurance coverage is actually provided for the oocyte donors against any kind of loss, damage or even death. Then clinics cannot select or offer to select the sex of the child, of course, which is illegal. Next one, genetic disease screening is mandatory before the embryo is actually implanted. And finally, there is prohibition of commercialization. You should not do for monetary gains. Okay, so this is what this act says. Next one, what is the right of the child which is actually born now? For example, person A is the donor. He or she actually gives the gamete, and through that the person, that is another couple, becomes pregnant. Now the born child is actually the child of this donor or the commissioning couple. So that is where this act says that a child born through this process is the biological child of the commissioning couple. Okay, and the donors do not have any parental rights over the child. Very, very important. Okay, because in these movies and all you see, right, the surrogate mothers actually eventually tend to claim rights on the child because they have biologically given birth to that. So, birth the child. Next one, posthumous use. That is this particular article, that why it came in the news is that it cannot use this article, sorry, this regulation says that you cannot use gametes posthumously. You cannot use the gametes posthumously unless and until the commissioning couple has actually given consent. Okay, you need to tell the commissioning couple, we are actually giving you an egg or a sperm which is of a person who is diseased right now but has frozen it earlier. Okay, and for that the commissioning couple actually have to give their consent. So this is what this particular article, this provision actually says. And apart from the ART regulation of 2021, we also have Surrogacy Regulation Act of 2022. So what is surrogacy? A woman who is actually willingly or who volunteers to bear the child for another woman or another couple, okay, who is not the biological mother. So that is actually called as surrogacy, and that is regulated by Surrogacy Regulation Act of 2022. And this actually says that only altruistic surrogacy is allowed. So surrogacy is of different types, okay. One based on the genetic relationship, and the second one is based on the payments that is made to the surrogate mother. Okay, so one in terms of genetic relationships, it is actually classified as the traditional surrogacy, and the next one is called gestational surrogacy. And based on the payment that is actually made to the surrogate mother, it is called as compensated surrogacy, and the next one is called altruistic surrogacy. So what do you mean by traditional surrogacy, which is the genetic based on genetic relationship? This traditional surrogacy is nothing but where the egg belongs to the surrogate mother itself. So the surrogate mother actually is biologically, in real terms, is the biological mother of the child. Okay, so that is called traditional surrogacy. Whereas if you see the gestational surrogacy, it is actually happening through IVF. Okay, so where the sperm and the eggs are actually fertilized into an embryo, and that is placed into the surrogate mother, because the commissioning mother actually does not have a what to say favorable, or she has a hostile environment for the baby. Okay, so this is called as gestational surrogacy. And next one in terms of payment, compensated surrogacy. Here the compensation of the payments are made beyond the insurance and beyond the medical aid. Okay, so here what is this? Beyond medical care support is provided, whereas here it is not beyond medical care. Okay, and this is usually done by a close relative or a friend. And there are again different criteria, like who can be a surrogate mother, whether the married couple can be, or whether single people can actually be a surrogate mother. All these things can actually there. Like for example, this surrogacy act, it permits only altruistic surrogacy. The second one, only infertile married couples can commission surrogacy, and this actually excludes the grandparents or unmarried individuals. And if you see prohibitions, the act prohibits the misuse of surrogacy for monetary benefits. That is, commercial surrogacy is actually not allowed. Now moving forward, we also have the Indian Contract Act of 1872, which actually talks about ART and surrogacy agreements are bound by contractual obligations, and parties fulfill their responsibilities ethically or lawfully. Next one is Indian Penal Code, that is the BNS. Here you have different sections like 312 to 316. This governs the misuse or unlawful handling of the human embryos or gametes. Next one is the guidelines for international precedents. With respect to that of this ART, if you see, India does not have a comprehensive legal framework. However, there are international frameworks. For example, you have the EU directives, and this will act as a guiding material in order to help India develop a specific framework with respect to ART. So this is what it is. Now let us move on to discuss the third article, pointing the beacon at India's undersea warfare power. Okay, so this particular article becomes very, very important. Where we'll be discussing about India's undersea warfare capabilities and the recent advancements that we have been doing, and finally we'll be seeing how it is actually relevant. It is relevant for the prelims examination, current events of national and international importance, and for the mains examination under GS paper 3, security challenges and their management in border areas and indigenization of technology. Now moving forward, let us see, there has been a previous year question, that is, which one of the following is the best description of INS Astradharani. So here these kind of, these naval fleets, and what are the ballistic missiles, the different types of cruise missiles, and India's development with respect to that of same, and indigenization in defense sector, all this becomes very important for your examination. Now let us actually move forward and see what is the article that we're going to discuss right now. So recently, India has actually made a number of advancements in order to improve its warfare capabilities, specifically with respect to the Indian Navy, because India actually strives to maintain its position as a maritime or a strategic maritime power in the Indo-Pacific region. Okay, and also we have a lot of threat by China. There are a lot of uncertainties going on in the Gulf region, etc. Right? So for that, India has actually made significant advancements. Now let us see what are the advancements. So first key development that India has actually done is strengthening the nuclear triad. Is India a nuclear triad? Yes. What do you mean by nuclear triad? That is, we are, or any country which is able to deliver the nuclear weapons from three modes, that is, be it land, the air, as well as sea. So India actually has the land-based deterrence missiles also, like we actually have the ballistic missiles, which is in the series of Agni as well as Prithvi. So all this become very, very important for the exam. Next one, air-based deterrence, that you can actually see in terms of very, very advanced aircrafts, like you have the Mirage 2000 as well as the Rafale jets. Okay, and also you need to know in which partnership with which country, France, US, etc. You need to know that. Next one, we also have sea-based deterrence. Okay, so this is actually, what is sea-based deterrence? That is through submarines, right? So this is actually anchored by a fleet of SSBNs. What do you mean by SSBNs? This is nothing but submersible ship ballistic nuclear. Okay, so SSBN stands for this. Okay, so what do you mean by that is, this SSBNs are the submarines that are nuclear powered. They are nuclear powered submarines that actually can launch the ballistic missiles, and these ballistic missiles are equipped with nuclear warheads. So that is what is called as SSBNs. Okay, so that actually includes INS Arihant, INS Arighat, and this actually ensures the stealth as well as the survivability of India's naval power. So this is what it is. Now moving forward, so first one is what? We are actually a triad, right? We can actually launch our missiles from land, air as well as under the sea. Okay, so what do you mean by undersea warfare? This is nothing but it is your submarine warfare, right? Where you actually conduct the military operations from under the sea. That is what it is called. The second advancement is we have actually come up with advanced technology vessels, that is the ATV project. So this is actually a unique initiative or ambitious initiative of India in order to develop indigenous nuclear powered ballistic missiles. Again, you need to know what is the difference between the ballistic missile as well as the cruise missile. All that you need to know, whether it follows a ballistic path or it actually travels with respect to hugging the land or within the atmosphere, and you need to know what is the difference, okay, between the hypersonic, ballistic missile, cruise missiles, etc. All these you need to know. And also under this, that is advanced technology vessel, under this project, under ATV project, there are key submarines that have been developed, okay, by India. Let's see. So these are the three submarines. So one is actually INS Arihant, okay, so that is this one. The next one is INS Ari Ghat, that is this one, and finally you have the Ari Dhaman. So that is this one. So let's see what is INS Arihant. This is actually the first developed indigenous nuclear powered ballistic missile submarine, and this got commissioned in 2016, and this actually helped India enter into the elite SSBN club. What do you mean by SSBN club? This actually has a number of countries, okay, that is the P5 countries, which is nothing but it has France in it, it has USA in it, it has China in it, it has UK, and finally it has Russia in it. So along with this actually helped India also get into this elite club, okay. Next one is INS Arighat. This is the second nuclear powered SSBN, that is the submarine, nuclear powered submarine, advanced than this particular version of Arihant, and this got actually commissioned in 2024. Finally, you have the INS Ari Dhaman. This is actually upcoming and it is a larger version with enhanced capabilities, and this will actually have the longer range missile capability. So these are the three developments with respect to that of submarines under the ATV project that India has done. Now moving forward, the third one is Project 77. So this was actually approved or given approval in the year 2024 in order to construct two nuclear powered attack submarines. These are nuclear, SSN actually stands for what? Nuclear power attack submarines, okay. So SSBN is different and SSN are different. These are ballistic and these are just nuclear attack submarines, and India is the only non-P5 nation operating both the SSBN as well as SSN, okay. So here itself you know that we have made significant strides in order to improve our maritime security and presence. Next one, modernization of conventional submarines. What are these? Project 75. So this actually aims to commission 6 Scorpene class submarines. For example, INS Bagshir. What do you mean by Scorpene class? These are actually fuel powered, okay, that is diesel powered, and these are not nuclear powered. So it actually plans to induct 3 more Scorpene submarines with around 60% of indigenous content. Now if you move forward, you have Project 75I. This is nothing but this aims to introduce the air independent propulsion enabled submarines. What do you mean by air independent propulsion? So for example, this is the sea level, and let's see that this is the submarine, okay. So what happens is there is actually fuel inside the system, right, but fuel plus oxygen can only produce energy. So in order to receive that oxygen or air, what happens, the submarine actually comes up and makes an appearance over here, then absorbs the air and then gets back in order to receive the energy, okay. But this actually increases its vulnerability to threats or any kind of attacks from the enemy. So what happens under this project 75, we are trying to develop air independent propulsion system where there will be no necessity for the submarine to come up to the surface. Next one, this also ensures 45% of indigenous content in the initial submarines, and that will be eventually increased to 60%. And also India is actually coming up with some of the niche technologies that include 100-ton unmanned underwater vehicles, okay, like under UAVs, aerial vehicles. We are also coming up. UAVs actually include what? Drones, etc. So similarly we are coming up with 100-ton unmanned underwater vehicle, that is UUVs, okay. So this is what it is. And also we are trying to expand our reach, our operational reach. For example is the Operation Sankalp, okay. So this was commissioned or came into existence in the year 2019, where it actually enables the Indian Navy to expand its reach from the Strait of Hormuz to the Red Sea. This actually ensures, or it actually makes sure that the Indian flagged merchant ships are actually safe and secure. So that is what this is. So ensures shipping security against any kind of piracy and attacks, okay. So this is what this is. If you actually see the Gulf region, here you have the Red Sea and you have the Gulf of Aden, and then you have the Persian Gulf, and then you actually have the Gulf of Oman, and then you have the Strait of Hormuz. So this actually helps, that is the presence of this Operation Sankalp actually helps the Indian Navy expand the reach from the Red Sea to the Persian Gulf in order to protect the Indian flag merchant ships. And also this reinforces India's role as a net security provider as well as partner and as a first responder in case of any kind of maritime crisis. So this is what it's actually talking about. Now let us quickly discuss the final article, which is very easy. This is nothing but recently the government has come up with the telecommunication rules of 2024, and that is going to replace the Indian telegraph rules of 1951. Always you need to know how the recently introduced rules are different from that of the previous ones and why they have actually been introduced and what are the areas in which these new rules are actually going to impact the functioning of certain policies, okay. This is what is important over here, because take your solid waste management rule or the plastic treaty, all these things become important, okay. And so we'll be discussing here about the telecommunication rules of 2024 and Indian telegraph rules, which are very important for mains GS paper 2, important aspects of governance, transparency and accountability, okay. So now let's move forward. So already there has been a question with respect to solid waste management rules, okay, in 2016, and this is very important. So all these rules, the provisions, how they differ from the previous version becomes very important. Now moving forward, let's see. The Union government recently notified the telecommunication procedures and safeguards for lawful interception of messages rules 2024. What do you mean by interception of messages? It is authorized, that is a particular agency is given the power in order to monitor the personal communication, either whether it is actually a voice call, whether it is a message, whether it is mail, etc. And this is actually there in order to safeguard the security, whether it is the national security of India, whether it is the public safety and all kinds of activities in order to prevent the criminal attacks, okay. So this is what it is. So let's quickly move forward and see what is the telecommunications rules of 2024. So this is the framework for the lawful interception of communications in India, understood, and this is actually going to replace rule 419A of the Indian Telegraph Rules of 1951. So interception of communication, I told you, right, where a particular authorized agency will monitor, access and capture the private communication which is actually transmitted via telecommunication networks, that is phones, etc. And this is done by law enforcement or security agencies for the legal purposes. Now we will see what is the Indian Telegraph Rules, okay. So the Indian Telegraph Rules of 1951, this was actually formulated under the Indian Telegraphs Act. Okay, this was formulated under Indian Telegraph Act in order to regulate the telecommunication services in India. And this Rule 419A was introduced in 2007. This actually permits interception under the national security. I told you, right, about safety concerns and then other things, and this actually complies with this particular Supreme Court ruling, that is PUCL versus Union of India, where it actually said interception can be done, but it has to abide by the privacy rights. Okay, so this is what it actually says. And recently we have the telecommunication rules that will be replacing the telegraph rules of 1951. Now moving forward, it is important for us to understand what is the comparison between this 419A of the telegraph rules as well as telecommunication rules of 2024. First one, authorization. So who gives the authorization under the 419A of telegraph rules was that only the Union Home Secretary or the State Home Secretary can actually can actually approve any kind of interception. Okay, whereas this adds joint secretaries also and senior officers of authorized agencies for specific circumstances. If there are circumstances like operational challenges in the remote areas, or in case of emergency, other than the Union Home Secretary and the State Home Secretary, these people, that is joint secretaries, can also approve the interception. And grounds of interception, this is only emergency cases, but here other operational reasons and can cater to remote areas. Next one, validation of the orders. Okay, so it actually did not give any kind of provisions for post-interception validation. But here, the telecommunication rules of 2024, this actually requires the orders issued by agencies or agency heads or joint secretaries to be validated within 7 days. Okay, so this is very, very important. Next one, the review mechanism. So there were very, very minimal review mechanisms over here which were outlined, but here it actually establishes a central review committee, and that comprises of the cabinet secretary, it comprises of the home secretary and the law secretary. Okay, moving forward, destruction of records. There were earlier no destruction of records, even if there are intercepted messages or calls, that is actually kept like that, and there were no mandatory provisions for destroying the interception of the particular period. But here it says that all the interception of records actually have to be deleted every 6 months, okay, unless there is a need for it in the any of the legal procedures. Next one, use of intercepted data. Again, there was actually no guidelines on how to use the data if the validation is delayed. However, here telecommunications rule actually say that intercepted data cannot be used for any purpose, including evidence in the court, if it is actually not approved by the competent authority within 7 days. Next one, compliance with Supreme Court guidelines. Of course, this particular telegraph rules was actually introduced after the PUCL judgment, but it is limited in scope. But here it more comprehensively aligns with that of the PUCL guidelines. And finally, technological relevance is it is limited to older communication technologies. However, this actually includes the modern communication technologies also, which includes the encrypted messages also, what we actually use in WhatsApp, etc. So this is the difference between both. Now, let us see what are the concerns with respect to the new rules. First concern, it talks about relaxed registration requirements. That is, earlier, the competent agency actually have to be registered with the authorized agencies. But this has been relaxed in the new telecommunication rule, which the critics say it is going to provide insufficient safeguards, and also there might be potential misuse of powers, and there are lack of accountability because there is no clarity on what are the actions and the penalties that can be taken in case if the intercepted data is actually misused for any other purpose. Okay, so here with this we've actually come to the end of our discussion. Now, let's quickly solve the mains question. So, examine the status of the forest resources of India in the context of recently released India State of the Forest Report 2023. Here, the approach to this particular question is divided into 3 parts, that is, the introduction, body and the conclusion. In the introduction, we will actually say that this has been released by the Forest Survey of India, and this provides a comprehensive assessment of India's forest and the tree resources. And also it has actually spoken about the depleting or the increasing mangrove resources, etc., is what you will say. And at the body you will actually give the figures of whether there has been increased forest cover or increased the bamboo cover, what are the areas prone to the forest fires, which are the states that are actually doing well with respect to mangroves, etc., where we actually saw, right, we had Gujarat, then we had states like Madhya Pradesh, etc. So all that we'll mention in the body. And finally, in the again we'll actually talk about the different challenges also, where because decreased forest cover is actually seen in the northeastern region, also decreased bamboo cover is actually seen in certain regions. Okay, all that we'll say. And finally, in the conclusion, where we will say that this particular report has suggested that India has been doing well because we can see increasing trends in forest cover, but also we can simultaneously see challenges like forest fires, regional disparities, etc. So there have to be effective implementation of conservation measures, okay, for sustainable forest management and combating climate change. Now, we will move forward. So, these are the questions that would have been discussed like on Saturday by Pratik sir. So, now let us actually take up and solve these questions. So, which of the following countries are the member of the Gulf Cooperation Council? So, Bahrain, yes. Kuwait, yes. Qatar is also a member. Iran is not a member. Oman is a member. So, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman. It also has Saudi Arabia plus UAE. All these are members of the GCC, whereas you do not have Iran in the list. So, Iran is not there. So, excluding 4 here, I think 1, 2, 3 and 5 will be the answer. So, C is your answer. Now, moving forward, the next question is the 30 by 30 target often mentioned in the news is an outcome of the conference of parties of which convention? Very, very important question. Whether it is United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change? No. Actually, these kind of conventions, their targets, as well as whether India is a signatory or whether India ratified the convention or not, all that becomes very important. It was adopted for what purpose and when, all this becomes important. So, it is not UNFCCC, it is not UNCCD. This is important because this will be covered in your magazine. However, this is not correct. And then CITES, this is also not correct. So, the answer is Convention on Biological Diversity. This actually brought the 30 by 30 target, that is conservation of 30% of land as well as marine resources by the year 2030. So, this is what is the Kunming Biodiversity Protocol. Okay, so this is actually the right answer. So, B will be your right answer here. Now, moving forward, the third question. Consider the following statements regarding the submarine cable systems. Okay, so submarine cables are fiber optic networks laid on the ocean floor that carry 99% of the world's international internet traffic. Correct. The next one, the India-Asia Express connects India to Europe. No, this is wrong. So this actually connects India to Southeast Asia. Okay, specifically you can say Chennai to Southeast Asia like Singapore, etc. So this is wrong. And the United Nations Convention on Law of Seas, that is the UNCLOS, it provides a legal framework for laying and maintaining the submarine cables. Yes, this is also correct. Since 1 and 3 are correct, the option will be, or the correct answer will be option B. Now moving forward, the next question. These are the questions of today. So here it will actually be discussed tomorrow in detail. So for this, you guys actually have to visit the website in order to solve these particular answers, particular questions, where you will be marked right or wrong depending upon the options you choose. And you'll also have a detailed explanation for this, and also you can actually find the detailed explanation in the DNA notes that is in the website, and you can comment your answers in the comment box below. So this question has been asked on assisted reproductive technology, whether it can be provided only by clinics registered with the national registry, and a woman can donate only once or not. So these two you would actually know what it is. So please provide your answers. Next one, India's advanced technology vessel project. Under that, what are the submarines that have been developed. We actually saw, and I explained that with the diagram. So please do go to the website and solve these particular MCQs that will be discussed in detail tomorrow. And the next one, with reference to telecommunications rules of 2024, consider the following. Here also, who are the stakeholders, who can take the decision, what is the maximum period for approval of interception, till what period you can actually have that intercepted communication data with you, all that becomes important. Okay, so here this particular MCQ shall also be solved on the website. So with this, we've actually come to the end of our daily news analysis. So for further updates as well as more interesting live sessions, please do like, share and subscribe to Narayana IAS Academy YouTube channel. Thank you.